I call my story a survivor story because I survived the horror of communism, and I refuse to call myself a victim because it's very different, a victim and a survivor. So I'm a survivor, I'm not a victim. Part one, the top 1%, because nowadays a lot of people divided the human race in the society, top 1% and 99%. So my ancestors were the top 1%. Oh, sorry, this is my great-grandfather, my mother's grandfather. And this is my other great-grandfather on my father's side. This is my grand-uncle on my father's side. This is my relatives with, that's General, the tall man in the back, General MacArthur of the United States. They were in Philippines before the Japanese invasion. This is my family. On the left side was my father and mother. On the right side was my grandmother and grandfather. And the one seated is my great-grandmother. And she has bounded feet, very small. And the middle was my uncle. My parents and my uncle still alive. And my grandmother just passed away last year at 106. That was me. And my uncle told me that day I was sitting on the sofa and giving the adults my opinion on Macmillan and Charles de Gaulle. Okay. Because my ancestors, the last part, our family was labeled black. In China, they labeled the people either black or red. Red are communist, black are not communist. And during that time, they were famous to label people either 5 reds or 5 blacks. And I don't know what 5 reds are. I knew what 5 blacks are because we're black. And so the 5 blacks are landowners, rich people, anti-communist people, bad people, and rightists. That's the most interesting thing is number 4, bad people. Bad people, they can label anybody bad as long as they don't like you. So sometimes we joke within each other, we said, oh, you're number 4. We call people number 4. And because I was born into a black family, I was called son S.O.B. I don't want to say this, but we were all called that. At school, in the society, that's our name. We don't have real names. In 1966, Mao wanted to make China greater. And so he started this Cultural Revolution. And these are for the red kids, not for the black kids. We're not allowed to be part of the little red soldiers. So the red 5 kinds against the black 5 kinds. So of course the heroic people are the reds, and the black were treated that way. And there's a name called Jet Propulsion Style. What they do is they will, 2 people first grab, this pictures grab your shirt, most of the time they grab your hair. and put your arm really high behind you, so force you to bend down. In Chinese culture, you bend down in front of other people means you're inferior, and you're shameful. You're not worth of a human being. So they do this to all the people they don't like on a daily basis. So that's all my family. And this is a haircut. The Red Guards was cutting this guy's hair. This says black member. And this is his name. In that time, there's a system. When your name is written and then your crime is written, just because you're black. There's no other crime, just black. And your name is written like this, you're still okay. If your name is written upside down, you're in a deeper level of trouble. And if your name has a cross over it, if it's black color, you're again in deeper color. If it's red color, means you're on your way to an execution ground. So for us, little kids, we don't know the faith of our parents every day. So we go out to see the posters or look at the sign, what stage my parents were at. So the haircut, the reason for the haircut is to humiliate people. Usually they call the yin-yang style. It means they cut one half off, bald, the other half not cut, still have some hair. But the other side, they cut randomly, so it's very messy. The reason for that is they want to humiliate you. And remember, we're not human beings. We're dogs, right? So this guy was getting that haircut. My mother got that haircut, yin-yang style haircut, because she was a university professor. And her grandparents were top 1%. Those are crimes. And my father didn't get that haircut, but he was imprisoned. He was in prison. He was a medical doctor, a surgeon. And one day during the surgery, he was saying a joke to the fellow doctor and nurses at the time. And right after the surgery, and they told him, "You are anti-revolutionaries. You are sentenced to prison." So my father told us later, after he got that notice, immediately he went to cut his hair bald, like my husband today, because he knew the first thing they will do is grab his hair and either pound on the ground or up to the wall. So he didn't want to get the brain damage, so immediately he cut his own hair. And see, this guy already got the cross. And this, his crime, still again, black, just black. And he, I don't know why they have a peg like that for him. Why he bent it this low? Because this board usually is plywood, very heavy, intentionally. And the wire usually is a thin metal wire and cut into your flesh because it's so heavy. And after 10 hours, you just want to bend lower and lower and lower. Here, he probably want to lay his board on the platform, so on the table, so he can have a little bit easier time. That's the intention. And probably he's a professor. All these people around are their students. Many professors here in the audience. Just imagine, one day you're a professor teaching, next day you're like this. All your students throwing rock at you, kick you, beat you, and humiliate you like this. You don't understand what's going on. What's wrong? Just because of that, many people committed suicide because they didn't understand. What happened? What did I do? There's no reason. So I was living on campus because my mother's job. And I remember all the windows above third floor are boarded because every day those professors jump from the window, commit suicide because they were taken away to these, locked into these rooms to get interrogated or tortured or criticized. So every day people jump. And there were, I calculated about 11 people in my family committed suicide. The youngest one was 16 years old, young girl.
Yeah.
And my favorite cousin, first his mother threw herself in front of the train, killed herself. And he was imprisoned, and he somehow found some lime water and drank it and climbed on top of a tall chimney and jumped and killed himself. All different ways. Either if they didn't get killed, they were beaten to death, like this for 10 hours, 19 hours a day, without food or water, and get beaten. Many people died on the spot. And not only that, after they're tired of this meetings, and they will force you to have a gun, and with this sign, and sometimes a cone hat, and walk on the street, and chanting, "I'm so and so, I'm the enemy of the people," and march around all the busy streets in the city. So you get more humiliated. And one day, my little brother and I were at home. Then we suddenly heard the gun coming. We knew something's wrong. Yeah, there was my mother, forced by her students, walking into our house. And then they came to our house. They got my brother and I. They made the circle and told us, "Tell us, what did your mother teach you against the communists?" And I just didn't want to say anything because my mother never taught us that. So I held my brother's hand and stood there saying nothing. Then the Red Guards started to beat my mother in front of us, saying, "Here, this is the evidence. You taught your children to refuse the communists." We asked some questions, they refused to answer. They just beat her in front of us. And earlier the picture Thomas had was hanging. This is Chinese style, a little bit more advanced, public execution. We didn't have any thing to do as a kid, so these are daily amusement. We watch truckload people with the sign on their neck with a red cross on their name. Their ship driven to the execution ground, not far from our house, and they just get shot at. No trial, no reason. One of my mother's colleagues, he's half Czech, half Chinese, so he doesn't look Chinese. And his major in college was English, so he spoke a foreign language. He doesn't look Chinese, so his sentence was death. Just like that. And then in 1969, our family was forced to leave the city and to a remote countryside. And at age 11, I started work like this every day. We didn't have animals. We have to till the fields. Because of the planned economy, the central government decided what each area need to grow as crops. And because our village was south of Yangtze River, so we were ordered to plant rice. And in the north of Yangtze River, everybody had to plant wheat. But just happened, our area was a very hilly area with the soil is very clicky. It's not suitable for rice. There's no water. And it was suitable for tobacco and peanuts. But those are cash crops. We're not allowed to plant any cash crops because that you need a market for trade. So that was totally not allowed. So we were forced to plant rice without water, and the farmers put more seed into the soil than they can harvest. And those peasants, they were so poor. At the end of the year, they gave all of their harvest to the government. They still owe the government because somebody fabricated the number of the harvest, the yield, to the government, and the central government make the standard. That's how much you have to produce from your soil. But we couldn't. So at the end of the year, the peasants have to borrow food from the government after they work all year long. In our village, the peasants only could eat one meal a year, solid cooked rice. That's all they could afford. And only the meal, the men and the boys could eat it. The women and the daughters and mothers couldn't eat it. And what they eat all year long, just a big wok of water and put one handful of rice in there to make a soup. I remember I could count the grains in the soup every day. Just drink that. At the end of the day, anything left over, feed the pigs. The pigs were very skinny also. Nobody were allowed to have any private property, private land, so we couldn't grow vegetables. And there's no market. So all we had was salt. And I found a little sidewalk and I planted some chili peppers because they didn't take much land and nobody really bothered by a plant of chili pepper. So that's what we had. Salt and chili pepper smashed together and drink that watery soup. That's how that's our meal. So, because of all these horrible experiences, I told myself, I don't want to see anybody have to live through the life I have lived through. Being called the son of a bitch. I want to live everybody to live as a human being with dignity. Be treated as a human being. So that's what I do what I do today. This is not 1996. This is 2016 in China. Today. Also, today. This is not a joke. It's happening in China in every school. Poor little kindergarten kids. I think the teacher really have a hard time to teach. I don't even know what she's telling these kids. Not just in China, the rest of the world. I'm sure here, a lot of people are calling for going back to socialism and saying, we want equality. What does equality mean? Equality under communism means equally poor. My ancestors, the top 1%, they were the pioneer of capitalism in China. They were the wealth creators. But starting from 1949, all of their banks, factories, stores, enterprises, everything was taken away by force, including our houses. We still have many houses in China lived by the communist government officials. We could just look at them. We cannot get it back until today. And so-called equality aroused a lot of Chinese poor people. They thought they are going to get land. Where do they get the land? Government forced the 1% to give up their land, or sometimes they didn't even persuade them. They just shot you dead on the spot and took your land. That's happened to one of my great-grandmother. And then gave to the peasants, but they only gave to the peasants for less than a year, and they took it back. So nobody owns anything in China, land. And today at weddings, those are wedding party favors. And I heard some stories. The wedding couple on their wedding night, instead of enjoying their union in their bedroom, they sat there together, copy the manifesto of Communist Party together. That's how they spend their wedding night. And that's how they can please the current government. So how much time do I still have?
8 minutes.
8 minutes. This is more than 8 minutes, so I'm going to play until 8 minutes, and then you can find it on YouTube. You can type my name, then you will find this.